Okay, so here is your video lesson 7.5, which is solving rational functions. So the last couple sections that we've talked about, we were able to talk about how to deal with functions when they're rational functions, when you add them, subtract them, multiply them, and divide by them. So the reason is to be able to simplify these rational functions, we can actually end up solving an equation with them. So let's go ahead and say we have a rational function that's 1 minus 2 over x minus 4 is equal to 4 over x. Okay, so the difference between what we've been doing in the past and what we're doing now is that we have two sides of an equation. Before we were just dealing with just the expression and we didn't have an equal side. This time we do have an equation and we have to, with a variable, and we have to solve. So there's a couple of things that's happening here. We have a number or a ratio if you want to look at it that way. Subtract another ratio is equal to a ratio. So in order to solve for this, what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and see if we can simplify it and combine a couple of these rational expressions together. So particularly the ones on the left, okay? So 1 is just a number that we can also represent as a ratio, such as 1 over 1. And so if we go ahead and change that so it looks like a ratio minus a ratio, we can easily find out what the LCD is, okay? So I'm just going to work on the left side only. Now the LCD, we said, to find the LCD, we have to make sure that everything's represented. So in the denominator on this side, we have a 1, okay? And the denominator on this side, we have x minus 4. And there's really much nothing else, okay? But we know that 1 times x minus 4 is just x minus 4. So in fact, x minus 4, we don't need the parentheses, x minus 4 is the LCD for the two equations. So if we change 1 to x minus 4, we have to multiply it by x minus 4. And to keep it equal, we have to do the same thing to the top. So we have x minus 4. And the same thing on this side, we didn't have to do anything except multiply it by 1, which turned out to be x minus 4. So if you multiply the bottom by 1, you multiply it by 1, it's just 2. Basically, it's the same thing. So now we can go ahead, we have a ratio minus another ratio, and we have an LCD in place. It's going to be combined to be over the LCD, which is x minus 4. So we have x minus 4 minus 2. That becomes x minus 6. All right? And don't forget that this whole left side is equal to the right side, which I will go ahead and write in green. Okay? This whole thing is equal to 4 over x. All right? So in algebra, we've dealt with this before. When you have a ratio equal to ratio, you can multiply both sides by x minus 4 and then multiply both sides by x, but we end up doing what we call cross multiplying. Okay, we have a fraction equal to a fraction. So let's take this and finish it. If we take this and cross multiply, okay, we get x times x minus 6. So I'm going to move it over here. X times x minus 6 is equal to 4 times x minus 4. Okay? And so when we multiply it out, we end up getting x squared minus 6x is equal to 4x minus 16. So you notice that we have a quadratic because the highest degree of polynomial is 2. Moving everything to the left, we get x squared minus 10x plus 16 is equal to 0. And we know that in order to solve for a quadratic, we have multiple methods that we can use. The best way would be to see if we can factor it. And if we take a look here, we can see that it factors to x minus 8 times x minus 2. And therefore, if you set each piece equal to 0, you get x is equal to 8 and x is equal to 2. And these are our two solutions to this problem right here. I would suggest that you can go ahead and plug it in just to make sure they're not extraneous. But otherwise, if they aren't, we have two solutions at 8 and 2.